we starting yet?
Sure, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, my bad. But we got a bunch of young guys that are fired up, running around. Today obviously had to get modified a little bit going indoors, but I am excited. I'm really excited, man. A young team, a young fun team, young coaches, a bunch of guys just.
You got a good staff, man.
Oh, putting that staff together was a lot of fun. We delayed the press conference a little bit, and I was out in LA, and I was able to do that and get that done before my opening press conference. But that was really beneficial for all of us, getting the time together, working with Terry. So by the time I talked to the masses coming back here in Atlanta, I had already established this really cool relationship with Terry. I had already established who was going to be coaching where, who was going to be doing what, getting back Jimmy Lake, having a chance to get Zach Robinson and get that secured and do some interviews with some guys on Zoom, some of the guys that were here, some of the guys I was able to keep. It was healthy.
Do you keep these guys in your phone or something on a staff you want to hire?
A Rolodex?
Yeah, when you're
kind of
about
just hold that. You got business cards of theirs?
So you never like keep them as just a Rolodex. Like what happens is when you get the opportunities to interview for some of these jobs, you keep that list. And as you work with people over the years, you start to add people to that list and also take people off, and most of the time you add those guys as this great wish list and the opportunity to get them. And then you got to try to fit those guys into the best scenario where you're going or wherever you're going, and I was lucky enough to be able to bring a few people from LA, being able to communicate that with Les and Sean, I thought was great. Being able to communicate that with all the guys, Steve, I knew you met my chief of staff today, Steve Skarnecki, and be able to communicate that with him, put those lists together. Also my agent, Brian Levy, and really coming back here, talking to all my Atlanta people, and it was fun to bring people back.
Yeah, man, you're back.
When you get the call and you're going to be the head coach of the Atlanta Falcons, who was your first call to assemble this coaching staff of yours? Who are you most excited to call? I gotta
hey, we're going.
Yeah. You give them the hey, remember that thing we talked about in that bar that one time when we were hammered?
So
now's the time.
What's funny is it probably was Zach Robinson because they were all out playing golf, I believe. And he was so sought after. Like people were all calling him, and he had a couple coordinator interviews. And I'm like, bro, hold on. I think this is going to happen. And once I got the job, I kind of called him to let him know his wife was pregnant, and I wanted to catch him before anything happened. He gonna have a baby, and Mia has a baby, and I'm like, so I probably called him first. And I don't know if it was more of excitement or to put some ease in his mind. And then I was able to call a few other people and let them know, Jimmy Lake was one of those people, and to get those guys ready to go. So that was a great time,
Who's someone that might have felt surprised or most excited, thinking okay, they might be in the wing waiting?
Probably Lance Shelters, probably Barrett Rude.
Yeah,
Barrett was Barrett was out. I didn't know what I was going to be able to hire Barrett as, right? Because they had some really good coaches here, and I had put some thoughts in it about potentially being able to keep a guy like Frank Bush. You guys know how great Frank Bush is. He got a chance to go to Tennessee, be one of his better friends. And then I was able to make Barrett Rude the linebacker coach. So being able to get him to come in was another call that was outstanding, and to be able to let him know, hey, I want to interview you to be my linebacker coach. And then a coach, I said, and then he interviewed. And when Frank got the job or took the job, because I was waiting for him a couple of days, the excitement of calling Barrett Rude was outstanding.
Yeah, Barrett Rude's the best, man. Is he your favorite white linebacker you've ever coached? Or?
It's hard to say, man. I've got a plethora of them now. I got 4 guys here right now.
Yeah, you do now.
Well, maybe 3.5. I don't know. But coaching you
3.5. When you said the half, would the half be on the all white team or the all black team?
We're going LSU. You'll let him make that decision.
You have the freedom to choose.
He has the freedom.
He has
freedom to choose.
So you're making all these exciting phone calls. You obviously make so many relationships as you're coming up the ranks.
Hey, hold on. I don't want to discredit Troy Reader, man. I don't want to miss all my white linebackers.
Chris
Roseboom.
Yeah.
There'll be a bunch of people calling me after this. Be a little upset if I don't say that. So sorry. Go ahead with your question.
No worries. I'm glad we got that out of the way. We just dodged a huge bullet there.
Yeah.
If you're making all these phone calls, you're excited about these phone calls, it's a huge opportunity. What about when those phone calls come in that hey man, hey brother, hey, are you going to let me get a job? Am I going to be able to be this or that?
Yeah,
you kind of have to navigate those situations.
Those are always tough, but I think you just kind of attack it with brutal honesty when you can, because you don't always know right away if you can make it work. And a lot of the people that you hope you can give jobs, so you can't always give it to them at those times. So those are always tough. You just try to navigate it with brutal honesty, and it's never going to go the right way. It's never going to be a good time to tell somebody you can't have them on your staff right now. But I've been doing this long enough where it comes full circle. And some of the people that you weren't able to hire right now, you better get at another time, or there'll be another placement or another situation for you to get them, because ultimately they fit your ethos. And all those guys that will call you with enough moxie to say that, no, they fit your ethos, and you'll have a chance to work with some of those guys. There is a bunch of good coaches that I could have brought in, or if I had the opportunity, or more people, or more spots, and things of that nature, or it was a better fit at that perfect world you can bring in. But those are always hard ones as well, because there's always a million people that you want to get to coach with you. I tried to get this guy to coach before he came to superstar, but now he's a big.
You want him to coach? Is that when you got the
wanted
job
him
here?
too. You know, when he was playing, man, I looked at him. You always look at those guys when they're playing. You say, that guy's going to be a coach one day. Who knew he's going to be the superstar?
I still, you never know.
guy.
I still talk about it. I'm like, you never know when I just might get the old itch. But everybody who does coach, they're like, hey, comp, don't fucking do it. Keep the gig you got going on.
You got a great gig. You do, and you got a face now. You're beautiful.
You see, I
brand
know
new
you with the
teeth.
chiclets,
Brand new chiclets. I mean, you look good, man. I'm proud of you.
I appreciate that. You were mentioning ethos. What is yours, or what do you look for when hiring?
Our ethos, man, is really about our Falcon Fit, our culture. And when we get those guys, the characteristics of the guys are being teachers, being confidants. We talk about bringing those people into our building. That's the kind of coaches I want to have. I want guys that are there for the total experience. We've had good coaches, we've had bad coaches. Don't say any names, Taylor. I don't want to hear your opinions.
You know my opinion.
But,
you know where I stand.
But I do think like it is a part of having establishing a relationship with your guys in order to get those guys to give you max effort. Like, you played harder for me because of our relationship on and off the field, in the lunchroom, walking through the vibe, the energy, all the things that we created, I think was really special when we spent our time at Washington, commanders. And we were not commanders, but it was definitely in Washington. We had a good experience, a great experience in DC.
You come from that staff.
We were
that
talking
kind
about
of
before
mixed.
the show how insane that tree is.
Yeah, it feels like it's, you talk about like the Kiffins, the, John Gruden and the guys before your wave. And I do feel like Washington, those couple years where, when Shanahan was the head coach and there were the younger coaches, and then even Coach Jay Gruden when he came in and had the younger coaches still, like it feels like that's been the foundation of all the branching out with all the new head coaches and everything. Yeah.
It really has. And John Gruden doesn't get enough credit for some stuff they were able to do. Like, him and Mike Shanahan had the systems, I shouldn't say started it, but John Gruden was running the West Coast offense and having a lot of success when he was in Oakland. And he had Mike Shanahan running the zone scheme, West Coast offense type of stuff. And everybody, we were intertwined in this whole world of trying to learn everybody's stuff. And I remember Cal Shanahan came to Tampa. And when he got there as a young quality control coach coming from UCLA, I think at the time, and he taught us the Denver system, the zone scheme. He taught us the keeper game, and he taught us all those things. We taught him Tampa too, and he learned that from us and Mike Tomlin and myself sitting down in meeting rooms talking about it. And we would sit with legendary coaches like Richard Mann, and we would go in the room and listen to him coach Keyshawn Johnson and some of those guys in the back of the room, Keenan McCardle. We were able to sit in the back and listen to those type of things with those people, and being around that type of coaching family and tree and the comfort of sharing information was different. And it went from Tampa to DC with the same type of role, same type of thing. And then you picked up Sean McVay, and you picked up the energy of Mike McDaniels and the energy of all those guys, Chris Forrester. And there were so many people willing to share, and there were so many people willing to steal it, both offense and defense. Because I learned the Pittsburgh scheme from Jim Haslett.
Right.
Let's not kid ourselves. And going there and learning that system and being to put my spin on the back end and try to make us the best version of ourselves, I thought was awesome. And I thought it gave us a routine and a rhythm. I brought that discipline of the Tampa 2 system to the Pittsburgh system, with Jim Haslett had installed and been a part of, along with Slowick, right? We were with Slowick's daddy.
Bro, and
everybody knows his son
Bobby
right now.
Slowick, he was I'll tell the boys all the time, like, he was the assistant linebacker coach in our room. That was my rookie year when his dad was our position position coach. And he's coaching Kerrigan and Arakpo on setting the edge 2 yards deep. And, it's not like a disrespect thing to him, but it wasn't like he's seen the way he is now.
I don't think we all look at that as disrespect. I think everybody knows. The younger coaches, nobody wants to be called a quality control coach.
Right.
I was a proud quality control coach. And Slowick was too. And Slowick was the outside linebacker coach, quality control coach, and he was breaking it down and showed his ability to be smart and versatile back then. He started as a video guy.
Right.
Bro. And then he rose up and he did that stuff with us, got fired a couple of years, and ended up going back to offense. So, like, he's had a lot of the similar experience that I had, being on offense, being on defense, being on different parts of the organization. And you can't miss those ops, and you can't miss those opportunities to be great. And that's what he's done. I think he's taken full advantage of it.
When you look at that coaching tree and how everybody's had so much success, when back then looking at it, did you guys know hey, we're the next generation.
You
So
know,
it's truly insane
Or
to look at that Redskins coaching staff and see where everybody's at now.
Taylor, I would say Mike Tomlin phrased it the best around us all when we get a chance to get together, whether it's owners' meetings, whether it's been the combine, whatever's been, we're all sitting in the same room. He goes, he recognized the unapologetic swagger and unapologetic arrogance that we all had, you know, when it came to football. And he loved it. And he fed off it because he said he recognized it from what we had in Tampa. And that was with a great staff, with Joe Barry, Mike Tomlin, Rod Marinelli, Monty Kiffin, right, myself, Joe Woods. And you can go on and on, even before us with Herm Edwards and Lovie Smith and things of that nature. But when we got to D.C., it was a bunch of young guys at the time. There were some older veterans in place that just kind of looked at us and shook their heads. But I was like in the middle ground. I was like the middle child. I was like J. Cole, right? And I was like right in between the older guys becoming this vet.
Yeah.
And right, just got finishing
London
up with
Fletcher.
being a young guy, you know. So London Fletcher, you know, like how about his presence in our room and going to see him, especially after coming from like Derek Brooks, right? Just being around those type of linebackers at the time.
Remember that meeting when it was the 2013 year? I think we went like 3-13 or something like that, and they were kind of upset with Fletch. Like, hey, not upset with Fletch, but like, hey, we need you to say something. And he had the team meeting. He's like, I don't care if you got to draw that motherfucker's face if you're not taking notes. Like, do something. And he just went, he went off on the squad.
So he was the ultimate pro, and I don't know if you're ever upset at Fletch, but I'm sure he took it that way, right? And it was like trying to get everything out of that team that year because, you know, you weren't there, but the year before we didn't start off so great. And I remember Mike Shanahan got up in the room and he called out a couple of people, and Kirk Cousins was just talking about this recently, and he didn't have any of these words. It was different colors, and it was the haves, the have-nots, the roles of different people and what you want to do and what he knew about people. He knew you were going to be great and he expected you to be great. Sorry, the microphone thing. And then he had people that he thought, you know, you're right in the cusp, people he didn't know. And right after he came and did that team meeting, I really believe that turned that team around. And that was the playoff run we had with Robert Griffin. We went to play to Seattle and lost that game. But that 3-13 season, I think they were trying to get that same type of energy, that same type of feel out of London. And when London got up in that team meeting, I'll never forget how special that was with him talking and how quiet that room was and how much attention he brought and the presence that he brought when he told you you don't care what's going on, what you got to do, how much detail he put into his work. He tried to pour it out onto us in the crowd.
Yeah, man.
And it was special.
How in the hell did you get into coaching? I was doing a little research. You what, PE degree from Hofstra?
Mm-hmm.
How do you get into
strong
coaching?
degree.
Yeah.
Strong, man. I did
GA at Hofstra?
Listen, man, you don't know how hard pottery was. So don't give me.
Ceramics is a tough
It is
deal.
tough, man.
Yeah.
You got to sit there. You got to hold the
Gentle
wheel.
hands.
You got to hold the wheel. You got to spin it with the right foot.
Certain speeds.
You have no idea, bro.
I've taken a class.
You don't know.
I have an idea.
You don't know.
Took home ec.
I was a general studies major.
Yeah.
I know a little bit about everything.
So getting that degree from Hofstra, I was fortunate enough to be around Joe Gardy. And his son, he's rest in peace. But his son was Dave Gardy at law school, and now just got finished with the league office and now with the Washington Commanders. But he was the guy that really drove me to coaching, along with Greg Gigantino, you know, Sarah's dad, who used to work here in the coaching, because they recognized something in me. They recognized a potential. First of all, I wasn't good enough to play in the league like you guys. And next, that I was a really good communicator with the guys in our room and had the ability to do those things. So they sent me away to Cornell for a year. And I went with Gigantino up there and really got to what it was called restricted earners, because I was definitely not smart enough to go to school at Cornell University. And it was like a glorified GA. And being up there for a year, I was around Pete Mangarian, who doesn't get enough credit for my career either, probably because I had to fire him as an O-line coach at one point. But he was really great to me because he had come from the league. He had done so many good things, and as far as bringing the league-like mentality to the Ivy League as much as you can, as far as breakdown, and working with this guy named Randy, who was this computer genius that taught me how to break down games and do different things that way. So that gave me piqued my interest in a whole nother light of being a quality control coach and being a guy that can break it down, because we all got a little bit of natural on the field coaching to us, but when you get the behind the scenes stuff, that's what separates you. And that helped me go back to Hofstra and really coach the DBs there. And then after that opened up some airways to internship with the Jets, because we were on the same campus. That opened up internships moving forward, and then going down to Tampa, ultimately get me to the National Football League and staying there.
Winning the Super Bowl the first year.
Won the Super Bowl the first year, which is a blur.
Yeah.
You got two of them, boys.
Won another one in L.A., and that was a great feel. And And that's also what intrigues you about coming back to Atlanta. Going out and get Kirk Cousins, set you up to go try to win one.
Yeah.
Another one.
But talk about you being in Atlanta and then being the interim head coach. And then they're like, all right, we're going to go with Arthur Smith. And you end up going to LA and then getting the call and coming back here.
I think it's like, it's really funny because you can take it two ways. You can either get bitter and you can go away and be angry at people that you just worked with for the last 6 years and not use it as a tool of advancement. I think when I went away, I had it as a learning experience. I had it as another like a check mark on the block of, okay, you've grown a lot since the last time you were head coach. You've had to you had to go through some adversity that we took from that point. That was right during COVID. And you had to come up with these rules right on the spot. I remember calling Mike Vrabel at Tennessee because you guys had the first breakout. And Mike was one of the few guys nice enough to give me a call and drop me a note and ask if I need any help. And I definitely called him and he didn't call me back, but he did reach out. He did
That's all
reach
that
out.
matters, right?
And he had to come up with some thoughts and some ideas on different ways to practice and different ways to do things during that time. And I was really proud of those moments, how we navigated through that stuff with Rich McKay and Rustin Webster, along with our coaching staff at the time that we all had. Jeff Ulbrich was here. And I had some real strong people that was able to hold that thing together and get us a couple wins down the stretch, right? Obviously not enough to win it. So I didn't leave bitter. I left with another experience and I left with it that helped me really when I went out to LA with Sean. Because then that enabled me to be able to be more helpful for him hopefully just as helpful he was to me.
I don't know if Vrabel would have told you in the conversation since you guys didn't talk, but we ended up playing the Bills without practicing for 11 days and beat the shit out of them. We beat that ass.
So
you don't have to practice.
You don't have to practice.
I knew about that, and that's why I called back. So we actually had some of the similar experiences of off on the Wednesday, combine the Thursday, Friday, and then go play a game and win. And then it got to the point we had 1-2 games, and everybody's like, every time we take a day off, we win.
Yeah.
And it was started to generate
the
those
locker
thoughts
room
of
loves.
It was so
the healthiest team wins.
It was so nuts for us. We're on Zoom. We're talking about the Steelers. And then a day later, they're like, all right, we're going Bills. We're going to go to the Bills now. And then showed up for a walkthrough on a Saturday and then played a night Tuesday game.
And Brave just gives the anytime, any place. Doesn't matter.
And you're walking out to the game and the mind frame is, we're either going to get the shit kicked out of us or somehow we're going to keep it close.
we got nothing to lose.
We got nothing to lose. And the boys were flying around.
I don't know. I don't know what day you played on, but I think we played on a Wednesday in LA when we played Arizona.
Did you really?
When they delayed it and we had people clearing protocol the morning of the game. And
bro, that was the craziest year, bro.
The wildest.
And that's when we were in LA. That was it was some crazy stuff going on.
Yeah, LA had a little extra.
Oh yeah.
They were making sure everything was done right.
By the time I got to LA, towards the end of COVID, it was starting to be, it was the best time you can go to LA because they had just opened up outdoor eating. And if you ever go to LA and you get a little outdoor eating, whether you're at Mastro's and you're eating in that parking lot and you're looking to those waves crash on the wall, right? I actually like Mastro's better with COVID. It was unreal.
COVID, I like that. It's a good dish.
And we had a bunch of different restaurants with the outdoor eating, so it was pretty cool. Go with a little jacket, get the outdoor food.
Yeah,
I kind of enjoyed that part of LA being there when it was COVID.
When you were at the Rams and you get the call, and I don't know who called you, maybe it was Arthur, whoever it was, and you're like, you're going to have the job for the Atlanta Falcons. Was it kind of wild? Were you surprised at that phone call coming in? After literally 4 years prior being there?
I wasn't surprised. I was more surprised when they asked me to do the interview.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, man, this is really interesting. I'm fired up. So I was really intrigued about doing the Zoom. I was really intrigued about meeting Terry, and then when I got on, I seen Kyle Smith and some of those guys, and we had the Atlanta tried to intimidate me. They didn't put Arthur Blank on the screen. Probably one of the only ones he won on the screen. He was in the background.
Mm-hmm.
The first time I came, I met with Arthur. The second time I came in, but it was Rich McKay, it was Kyle Smith, it was Terry Fontenot. Who else was on the screen at the time? I can't think of. Maybe Dean Stimulos, but a couple people that I knew, and I thought it was cool because it was really formal. It was information gathering, and I did a good enough job in that to get me to the second interview until I came back. Coming here to finally go to Arthur's house and sit down and be able to talk to him about some of our common beliefs, some of our theories, what I've learned, how far I've grown, what I want to see next. And the boys were there, and Max and Josh. No, Josh wasn't there, but it was Max. And then I met with another group that had some people here, Tamika Rish and Fernando, who I didn't know at the time. And Dean Stimulus was a part of this as well, and Brett Jukes and some of the guys that I had knew from when I was here before across the building, because what Arthur does best is he gets opinions from different people. And he has a way of hiring people in a process. And he went through that whole process with me. And I was really appreciative of the style and the way he did it.
You were talking a little bit when we were on the hallway about your relationship with Arthur and how long, like how much history you guys do have. Taylor was asking about it a little bit before we started, but you can you talk about how that's developed and when it started?
It's so funny. I'll start right from the beginning. It was Rondé Barber who asked me to go out to a ranch in Montana with him, and I'm thinking, what do I want to go to a ranch in Montana for? But it was Rondé, right? And took the family out.
Beautiful place, Montana.
Beautiful place, and we had a ball, and where I learned to ride a horse, and where I was able to let my kids run around this ranch in Montana and have a bunch of fun. And then they provided this 5-star meal at the end of the night with your family. And then at the end of the night, your kids all came in. It was this family fun environment. And it was different than any place that I had been or taken my kids. And I thought, this is really well done. And it just so happened that Arthur Blank was the owner of the ranch. And he would pick his spots and he'd eat different with different groups every single night. And I didn't work for him, so I had no care in the world. I just was myself.
You're just having a good time.
Having a great time. I'm thinking, you're the Atlanta owner. I work with Tampa. Who cares, right?
Yeah.
And we got a chance to know each other in those first couple of years. And then I got fortunate enough to come down here with Dan Quinn and work for him. And I was still going to the ranch. So it didn't change our dynamic that way. It just helped us grow a little bit even more, get a chance to know each other on the personal level. Then he got a chance to know me as a worker. Then I got a chance to do a trial run as the interim head coach. And then I got a chance to go away and then come back. And really, he's almost a father figure at this point because he's seen full development and full growth, and having a chance to come back on him and knowing the core values, how to be innovative, how to be people first, how to do some of those things that we talk about all the time when it comes to our culture, that it was a really cool environment to come back to and really cool to see how he had even grown even further and how he had done some different things. When I left, it was A&B. He come back as A&B-SE. Right? The whole sports entertainment. And there's everything about that. And it's like, it's become even more family oriented. It's become even more that way. And that's what he wants. And that's what we all want. And I think that's become a bigger part of this building. So like our relationship is different. That doesn't mean he's not going to fire me the same way if we don't hit the results.
Right.
But it definitely makes you want to work harder for him.
Yeah. He does have that like kind of mob boss kind of vibe. Where I was able to sit down with him during a like one of those top 30 visits.
I did not say that, Arthur. That was Taylor.
Arthur,
called you a mob boss.
He's got like he's got a vibe about it. I was in what's that nice area?
Buckhead.
I was in Buckhead. There's like this really nice house, and I went in there. It ended up being his office, and there's like really nice woods and a nice painting. And he sits down, and his hair's sleeked back, mustache out. And we're just kind of talking the whole time. I'm fearing for my life a little bit.
He always looks great.
He's
going to be the best
well
looking guy
dressed.
there. And if he's not, he's going to get somebody to make sure he is the next time.
You wouldn't say otherwise, though. I mean,
no, you could be lying right now.
He treats you when he's treated the way he looks. Mm-hmm. He looks like a mob boss, and he's treated that way. When he walks in the room,
the ring.
Things are tidied up.
Kiss the ring.
You got to kiss the ring once you walk in.
They're tidied up.
Yeah,
no
and
question.
when he's not around, I can tell him that they're tidied up. It's just there's more people moving when he's in the presence, when he's ready to get there.
Yeah. How do you feel like you've developed? And obviously it's been, quite a bit since your head coaching run in Tampa.
Sure.
But what do you feel like you've learned the most, or the learning curve, or when you look back, think of the things that you might have done wrong?
It was a bunch you can talk about wrong. We don't have enough time in this segment to talk about what you've done wrong. But the things that you learned the most was the collaboration of the general manager and the head coach, because that just goes throughout the building like no other. And the best example that I saw was Les and Sean McVay. And then you start thinking about some of your outside sources and what it was with Mike Tomlin and his general manager at the time. He has a general manager, now new one, but watching those guys work together, because I was able to be close enough to that Pittsburgh system and watch them win and work together for a long time. But it was really good to see that and be around it every single day, how they went about their business, to be able to bring that back. So like that collaboration was great. And me and Mark Dominic, we had a great relationship, but I don't know if the all out trust and collaboration was there like it needs to be in order to win at the highest level. Like we still had things that we hit from each other, and I'm not going to sit here and blame him for anything, but it was some parts that we can learn, like we talked about, and do better, that we want to do better together. And I still keep it with Mark, and we're great friends, but we could have done a better job of forming our relationship first before trying to coach our football team.
You're known as such like a a player's coach, which is like, I feel like loosely said these days, and you are known as like an A+ relationships guy, being a young coach coming up, understanding that you can, like, you're one of my favorite coaches that never coached me, because you see how good you are with everybody in the room and everything else. How do you balance that shift sitting in the head coaching chair versus being like a position coach?
You know, I pride myself, even as a position coach, as you know, as trying to have a relationship with everybody in the room.
Yeah.
You know, whatever that relationship was, right? Whatever it is, whatever you can make it. Like for us, it was technique. It was some of the things that could help with your drop. It was individual things I see on your movement, things of that nature. So I was able to communicate that to you at hopefully a high level. And I try to form a different set of relationship with everybody within the defense. And then if you really dive deep, it was really starting to settle in with people on the offense, and it was other coaches and being able to invite people into your home and do different things with different people. And I think I pride myself on creating these relationships that help you just grow and develop to a person that suss that out in the people you hire.
Yeah, and like foster that culture.
And then you make that culture just kind of develop into everyone where you want to be groomed that way. And like right now with Terry, I pride myself on giving them more information. I pride myself on our communication. I pride myself on being an authentic listener. Listening is a skill, and it's hard to do, particularly when you're young and you got all the answers.
Yeah.
And you're like, I'm a 32-year head coach. What are you going to tell me, right?
Yeah.
But now, you know, fast forward to these years, and it's like, you know, I love being able to listen to Terry talk about his experiences in New Orleans and how he grew throughout the system and the people that he were with, and what he's seen with Drew Brees and how he's going about this movement and the people that he listened to. And I love sitting around listening before I actually talk. And that's a battle I still fight, clearly, right? But I love to keep developing that skill. And that's how I kind of do it right now. Pride yourself in listening to more people on your staff. Hire the people that can build those relationships and form those relationships. But then once you get them, find a way to listen to them.
Yeah.
When you having that open line of communication, how do you not get to a point where like there's too many chefs in the kitchen, where like you have so many opinions coming your way, you might lose what your first opinion was, and kind of there's so many roads you can take in any given decision, finding that way of making the best one.
I think Taylor, that's when ultimately the decision makers kick in. You know, there's a reason there's a coordinator title on people's name. There's a reason you have assistant general managers. There's a reason you have a director of personnel and a director of college. You know, ultimately, the decision makers got to collaborate at the end of the day and come up with that result, what you want, and then come out that room, what we're doing. You know, you appreciate, you listen, you're able to gather information from all the personnel and all of the, so to speak, ideas. But at the end of the day, it's our job to put them together and go get what we need to get done.
You've rattled off so many coaches that you've been around with the Grudens and Shanahans and McVays and Coach Quinn. And I know that they've all had a hand in your career, but is there a coach that you feel like has influenced you more than the others?
Man, you know, Mike Tomlin would obviously get the most credit in the professional level. Watching him run out 2002 Super Bowl team room, watching him do those things and control that defensive back room, and then watching him navigate himself to being this great defensive coach. And he also played offensive ball when he was at William & Mary. So he was one of the first people to spike my interest of offense and really intrigued me about how he taught through an offensive lens. So I wanted to be more like that. And he would take definitely the professional development, the career movements of that. And then the other one with the relationships was definitely Joe Gardy. You know, it was nobody like my college coach that taught me what nepotism was and building relationships with people. I remember he would come down the hall and say, "Hey, Raheem, I'm going to Connecticut to get a slice of pizza. You want to come?" You know, I'm like, "Sure, pal." And
Pal.
Off to Connecticut we went.
Connecticut.
Off to Connecticut we went. And then like, you know, and you even think back, you go back to even your high school coaches with Donnie Soma. And I would never forget. And I thought about it last week when we drafted Penix and everybody went crazy in the world. And I remember the first thing he said to me.
We'll talk about that.
I remember the first thing he said to me, shock him. We got T-shirts that my dad still has.
Yeah.
And he said, shock him. And that was Donnie Soma. And I was 17 years old, right, when he told me that. And I had Chet Parlavecchio before that as a junior, and the toughness that he displayed within practice with when you had this Italian coach with his nose bleeding through his face mask telling you what to do. It was like, okay, this dude is different.
Yeah.
He looks at you different. So I got to, throughout the walks of life, you've stolen different things from people, and it's like, you formulate your own identity.
Yeah, I love that we're getting a shout out back all the way to the high school days.
Yeah, that's
for
wild.
sure.
You brought up Penix.
Yes.
You guys are sitting there at 8. Everyone's saying Atlanta since Jonathan Abraham. They've needed a rush guy for the longest time since him. They're going to take this guy. They're going to take Dallas Turner out of Alabama. No question about it.
Another weapon for Kirk.
Yeah.
Yep.
Another weapon. Not a weapon for Kirk. He's an edge rusher, but
Kirk Cousins. Another weapon like on offense.
He was giving you an or right there.
Or,
Joe.
okay.
Follow along, will you?
My fault. My bad. I was like, that guy, isn't he an edge rusher? Yeah, or a weapon for Kirk Cousins, no question. And then obviously that's turned in and the whole place, all of the National Football League goes crazy in that situation. What was the thought process there?
So, we talked about decision makers, right? And you're exactly right. Nobody's wrong in their thinking, like nobody's wrong in what they're saying. Like, whether you needed a pass rusher, you needed a cover guy, potentially getting another weapon for Kirk, like we talked about, but you address these things as you go throughout the process. In free agency, we addressed Kirk, right? Our number one need for the right now quarterback position to play what we wanted to do. Went out and got Mooney, went and got Ray McLeod. We traded and went and got a guy from Purdue and what he's able to do in Rondell, right? And do some of those different things. You already had, Pitts on the team. You got, Bijan Robinson with Tyler Algier. You have these different weapons around people all across, but Drake London at the other side of the wideout. And on defense, when we got here and watched the tape, Jimmy Lake and I, you've seen some really impressive players. We just talked about Ellis. We talked about Nate Lamon, right? Some of the people up front and the Grady Jarrett's and talking about having D.O. here from New Orleans, some of those type of things and all these weapons across the board. A.J. Terrell's an uprising star, in my opinion. And then you went last year and you got Jesse Bates and you put that to the roster. And our jobs, you could say whatever you want to say, is to have short-term and long-term thoughts. And we went through a hard time without Matt Ryan, this organization I'm talking about. And personally, I love Matt Ryan and what he brought to this city. And if we were sitting there and we had drafted Kirk in 2012 and he came here and he just finished his career and he was 36 years old, we'd be in position to look for a quarterback. Luckily enough, we have an owner that sees it the same way as us. You just play a guy $100 million guaranteed, $180 million contract. And he says, let's find we got an answer for a short term. No matter what that short term is, right? It could be the extent of his contract, it's still short term. But if you believe in the guy and he's high enough for that point, when you get to him and you can get a long-term asset quarterback and Michael Penix, which we do, why not take that shot?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Why not take the shot? And it's going to be criticized. And it's fine because I do love people's opinion. I do. Right. And I don't think anybody's wrong for having theirs.
The communication that night when it does go down, and you guys, the relationship with Kirk, like how is that unfolding and going down? Because I'm sure if you're Kirk, it goes down as a surprise as well.
Heck yeah. The hardest part is keeping in information and being as transparent as you possibly can without having the uproar that you get from those things, right? So you can't potentially tell Kirk that the night before or while the draft's going on. You have to tell him when you're on the clock when the decision is made. Because what if it doesn't happen?
Right. If it doesn't happen, you're still thinking of the conversation they just had. Like, man, are they going to be thinking?
Or if you do it beforehand and now that throws a monkey wrench in the plan and someone jumps you and they take potentially a guy that you want. So because something gets out from whatever source.
Right.
Like, there's a lot of moving parts in the
It's
draft.
a lot of moving parts and there's no right way of doing it.
Zero control until your
so
name is on the clock.
Whichever lens you look through, you can find some fault. So the first thing I'd say with Kurt was I apologize for not being able to communicate how you want to. I don't apologize for the pick. I apologize for not being able to communicate how you would like to. But this changes nothing within your situation because Kurt comes out and we win the next 2 Super Bowls. Guy, Kurt is the quarterback.
He's the guy. Yeah. And even in Kirk's situation, when he came to Washington, he was drafted in the same class as RG. What are we laughing at?
No, just that was an facial expression.
Yeah, oh yeah, I know.
Facial expression, staring down Will was just like, yeah. And then Will knows in his head, he's like, I gotta say something right now.
I know. He's just staring through me right now.
Through the soul.
I mean,
No, Penix is a stud. Or like he is one of those guys that I think Will was sitting there saying you wanted the Raiders to get him.
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm sitting there like everybody else. Oh shit, that's
you always try to compare things to different years. Like why not later? Like I don't predict that. Like we had 6 quarterbacks going in the top 12 picks.
Mm-hmm. Like hotcakes. They were going like over and over. You had no idea when Penix was
every year is different. You compared to Jordan Love because they took a quarterback, not because of what number they took him at.
Mm-hmm.
Where Aaron Rodgers was in his career. That's not what you do. You're talking about the young guy with the older guy.
Right, but it's worked out for the Packers for the last, it seems like 30 years.
I tell you, Matt LaFleur's
right? Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers, and then Jordan Love. What would you say about?
Matt LaFleur's pretty happy.
He got to be happy.
Yeah, he's pretty happy.
And it's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he says, and it's cool.
So you pick Penix, and then after you pick Penix, you call Kirk, and you're like, hey, listen, we couldn't control when we called you.
I had to call Kirk.
Yeah, that's just this is how this game goes. Which Kirk knows, he's been in the game for a long time.
And as you guys know, your competitors, right?
Right.
And the quarterback is always different. It's always different. And I'm not expecting him to be happy-go-lucky, but I did expect him to be a man, and he was more than.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he called Penix. He texted me, asked for the number. He called him. He reached out. And you know, the beauty of it is it was two men. Penix called him. He talked to the media the next day. He didn't talk about what they spoke about. I still don't know what they talked about.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? They're grown men.
Right.
Goes all the way back to what we talked about at the beginning of the show, what ethos means when you talk about being a Falcon. And both of those guys character fitted.
How excited?
The highest level.
How excited were you and Terry to go out for the press conference?
You know, it was funny because
knowing they are.
It was funny.
You ready for this?
We didn't think about
What's
it.
going out there?
That sounds like a David Bassity problem, right? And you know, like I'm not really shy when it comes to media, but it was more of this. It was more of we were so busy the rest of that time. I can tell you now, trying to trade back in, that it didn't really come up until it was time to go downstairs and talk. When we couldn't get back in.
Yeah.
Who are you trying to snipe up?
I can't tell you that, but
It's already happened. It's
Yeah,
over.
done.
I'm not going to tell you.
You go snipe in?
Not telling you. Not
just
telling you who
initials.
How about this? Where at what number were you guys trying to trade into?
Everywhere. I mean, it was all over the place. Yeah, people that we liked all across the board. So
Yeah, a lot of good ball players.
it wasn't like a particular person at one spot. There was different spots of people that you wanted in different layers. So, you know, that staff does a great job. So it was like, you know, wasn't able to get done. You go downstairs, you talk about the press conference, and you understand that there are people involved in this business, and you got to have an excitement, general excitement to get Michael Penix, and then there's also a empathy for Kirk Cousins, and that's our job. Deliver hard news.
Deliver hard news. Keep moving. We have 2 minutes left, right? Okay.
Oh, 2 minutes.
We only have 2 minutes.
Two
so
times
we got to
four?
rattle a couple off. I'm going to give you 2 questions in a row. First one is, this team needs a locker room guy. They need a guy that's going to come in and band boys together and make sure, give you the next step to make the playoffs and win the NFC South. What are the chances that William Earl Compton III can get a workout with the Atlanta Falcons?
None right now.
That's crazy.
That is, you got to appreciate him being direct.
I know.
You got to appreciate him.
He is transparent. He's
Like,
direct.
So deliver hard information right now.
Right.
Will has not been training for what we do.
What are you talking? He looks great.
It's not about the look. Will can go on the beach right now. If we're going to a beach and I got to take a guy, it's Will. He's going to look good.
I don't know. The way this guy's dropped, you know, we're top
You
3.
don't got it. You guys have a better relationship.
Yeah, okay.
I see the chemistry here. Both of us with our shirts off together.
Take
walking
Will.
on the beach.
He'll make me look better. I'm taking him for that. But the football team, no.
Damn.
Love him.
Just give me 8 weeks.
8 weeks. 8 weeks.
Your team was supposed to happen here.
You didn't say trained. You said now.
Right. 8 weeks.
Yeah,
from
no,
now.
you're
8 weeks from now, I would take Will at any level if he thought he can still do it.
Y'all love Rob, man.
We're back.
We are back. We're back. Hey, we're back. No, Rob, we were talking about before, and I was telling you this before he came in.
He's an ethos guy.
That you were telling the story, but a core memory of mine, like one of my, like, I guess, like, welcome to the NFL type, because coming from Pelini staff, if you like missed a tackle or missed a play, you basically want to, you want to kill yourself. And so I had missed a tackle in the preseason game. I think our first preseason game in Tennessee. And I remember just being on the bench, just like, that's it. I'm going to get cut. A couple guys went down. Keenan Robinson goes down day 1. I go from like the last spot. Now I'm working with the 3, so you get a few reps. Jeremy Kimbrough tears his hamstring. He's out, so now I get to play with the 2s in preseason. So I'm thinking, this is my shot. Yeah. And I miss his tackle, and I just remember thinking, like, it's over. It's over. And Rod comes over. And he was not my position coach at the time. He's like, Comp, why you hanging your head? Like, who gives a shit? You miss a tackle. You're in cover 3. If you're going to miss on the inside, make them go outside, do your curl flat play. You're good. Who cares? And I'm thinking in my head, like, not that, you can miss tackles in the league, but I'm thinking that is exactly what I needed to hear to like get out of my own head. Because I'm thinking like, man, this is going to go bad.
Yeah, because if a player
remember that?
If a player tells you that, you're like, whatever.
Coach,
you're like, oh my God.
Yeah, if a player tells you like, okay, yeah, good for you, bro. You're a starter.
It was the Tennessee. I don't know which game. I don't know the game. I don't know who we're playing because, like, preseasons. I'm out there really watching us and evaluating and just looking at players.
You're trying to get Phillip Thomas and Bakari Rambo ready to go.
Yeah, I'm trying to get us all ready.
Yeah,
I was always been greedy. I've always wanted us to play well, right? And you missed the tackle, and I believe my safety made the tackle. I'm not sure which one it was. And I thought, what a great miss. You shot your gun. You play fast, physical, and free. Jimmy Lake. And you turned it over to us. We got him on the ground. We got off the grass. And I'm looking at a kid who just came from Nebraska, who just fought his way up, this free agent that is going up to our twos that I know that we're going to count on at one point. And I say, look, bro, that was a good job. I like you to make it too. But like, that was part of me building relationships with you because I knew you had a chance.
Hey, that was so beautiful.
Hey, that was, bro. That
and
fired me
the
up,
cool
bro.
thing about that story is when we first got here, Will told me that story, which I've heard before. And then while you were grabbing coffee, you started telling that you guys both had the same recall of that story, which is really cool, which means it meant a lot to both of you.
It was a moment.
It was a moment that meant
I
a lot
got
to
so
both
many
of you.
memories of him because he was the linebacker, right? So he probably doesn't even know, but like he had this crazy recall. And we would talk about things and looks to own and things that you would say. And I would always say it to Comp.
Mm-hmm.
And Comp was the backup. But when you tell the backup, he reinforces it to the starters, right? And he was that type of guy. That's why I thought he would be a coach.
Mm-hmm.
But he's a reinforcer, man. He's a sounding board. And when he got a chance to play, there was not a bigger fan from wherever I was at, watching him play back in D.C. and watching him play throughout his career after that point.
I appreciate that, man. That was fucking awesome.
I know we got to let you go. I'm going to ask you one more question. And this is a very important question.
Because I have one too, so.
Okay, we're going to ask you two more questions. These are both very important questions.
Hey, you are my guys.
Yeah.
David Bastley right now is cringing back there. He's all
He's
nervous.
hurt.
when
He's
you-
hurt
I'm like,
now.
bro, like,
Bijan
I'm good.
is back there waiting to come on. He can come in if he wants. Yeah.
Yeah, he can come on in. When you gave him my number and we got on the phone and chopped it up, he's like, "Oh, playoff Willie." I was like, "Oh yeah, hell
Playoff
yeah, that
Willie.
fires me up." And he was like, we got on the phone. He goes, "We'll get raw right off the top, right out of practice." And he starts naming a couple players. He's like, "We'll get a couple players for you guys." And he names a couple, and none of them were Kirk. So I'm thinking in my head, like, okay, I know how this is gonna go. I'm gonna need to text Kirk on my own and lock it in before they can be like, no Kirk, no Kirk. So anyway, that was my story.
Is that the question too?
No, my question is this: Have you been seeing the Austin Rivers clip about the NFL players and NBA players?
I have not.
Okay, so my first question is, who has the better athletes, NFL or the NBA?
Soccer.
That's not the question.
Sorry.
We can move on from that. That was
Right.
a tough try.
No, I want to hear.
Athletes, I mean, the NBA game's changed so much. Like, okay, we're talking about the 90s basketball with Kobe and Iverson and Michael Jordan. They'd have a fight. Right now, it's changed to a skill game. The top 4 MVPs don't have any athleticism. The MVP is the worst athlete in the world, can't jump off a curb, but is a baller because of a skill set. Like, his skill set is unbelievable. His touch around the basket, he's able to play. Luka Doncic, like, I can't see him tackling Bijan right now. So when you're talking about just those two sports, the athleticism, I'm giving us. The skill set, we got no chance against those dudes.
I agree with you
But
wholeheartedly.
athleticism,
Wholeheartedly,
football.
we got what we need.
They had a better argument back in the 90s with
They had
AI.
to feel good, get a nice little compliment. From
but
the
there are a
head
lot
coach
more
right
white
there.
guys running around on the court.
I wasn't saying white guys. That was his words again.
Yeah, those are my words. I definitely speak for myself.
I was saying
we
the
know what white
international
guys
game.
are.
The
We know what
international
white
game
guys
has
are.
changed basketball a little bit
Yeah.
when it comes to that. It's more of a skill. Steph Curry, like he's changed basketball. Like, you better be able to shoot or you can't play.
Yeah,
All right, last
that's what
question.
we needed. Yeah.
All right, last question.
Okay.
I mean, you are you running this segment? LeBron is just a dog. Like, he's one of the best athletes in the world, and I'm not like this like crazy LeBron fan because I'm in an argument and I'm on the other side. But I got so much respect for him because he's the most dominant player we've probably ever seen. Him and Shaq. When you talk about the most dominant players, that's the category LeBron's in my opinion. And then also the category LeBron's in is like created the most hype in the world and like surpassed it. Like we knew about LeBron like way before we should have known, and he surpassed that. So like I don't ever want to disrespect his greatness on camera. Now, when we get into our arguments of the GOAT, I may go the other way a little bit, but
A little animated.
yeah, well, you got to give a couple. You got to get a couple negative points in there.
Yeah, you got to. There's always got to be a devil's advocate. So
what
my
was
question,
yours?
this is my last question. And I will land this plane. You got to stick with me. In the spring of 2019, a head coach for the Tennessee Titans sat on the bus, and we asked him if he would cut his dick off for a Super Bowl, to which he answered the question saying, yes, I would have been married for 30 years. Why not? I don't use it anyway. Now, that team started out 2-4 and ended up going to the AFC Championship to play the Kansas City Chiefs at Arrowhead Stadium. Before that game, the press asked him, you said you cut your dick off for a Super Bowl. Would you still do that? To which Mike Vrabel replied, no, I wouldn't do that.
I was just joking with him.
I was just joking around with them. We're up 10-0 in the first quarter against Patrick Mahomes.
big
and the Kansas City
mistake.
Chiefs ends up losing, and the Chiefs go to the Super Bowl. So Mike Vrabel lost to Tennessee Titans the Super Bowl, is what I'm saying. My question to you is, What are you willing to do for the Atlanta Falcons to win a Super Bowl?
I mean, you got to so drastically cut it off.
You got to do some drastic shit, right?
But like
to get a Super Bowl ring.
Here's what I'll say.
Go ahead, King. Do your thing.
2002, 2021, the people, the relationships that you build, there's nothing in the world like it. And you would do almost anything to win those in a fair and an equitable state. So there might be a few limbs lost in order to get that feeling with these group of guys.
You take a limb off for the Super Bowl.
I mean, to win that thing, think about this. To bring a Super Bowl championship to this city with this owner, Arthur Blank, with these guys that have established this relationships and this bonding and this building and being around Pitts and Bijan for just such a short time and Drake
After
London.
28-3.
It is like, like that's tough, bro. Like the 28-3 thing, like that is hard.
But that's Brady.
But that's football.
He said, but that's Brady.
That's football.
Yeah.
Like think about doing that with these cats.
Mm-hmm.
That
You probably
is
run
like
the
worth
ball.
it. That's
He's probably
worth it.
running it at half.
Look at that guy. Of course I'm gonna run it.
Look at his traps. It's literally popping out of the
I
shirt. Is
know,
that a true
dude.
classic T-shirt?
I'm out of here.
Thing
You
looks
guys are
incredible.
going graphic on
So
me.
you take a limb off. Just
I'm taking it off. I'm not gonna get specific with the limb, but I take a limb off the win
Okay, I
championship.
love
These
it.
dudes.
Hey, Coach Rod, thank you so much, man.
Appreciate
This is
you.
awesome.